people without, not understanding, well, why are we jailing them? That's that child in us wanting to know why. Why? Because if you want me to learn something, you have to give me the nuts and bolts. The person that just committed what we call a crime has more nuts and bolts than the person that says, well, I'm a politician or I'm a priest. I said, you didn't give me any nuts and bolts. So how can I put that together? And that's the program that has been designed, maybe even interfered, and a lot of people run by it. Because in that program, there is no let's question the program. That's why I say, listen from within. Something inside will say, listen, yeah, you've invited in a demon. Oh, okay. I'm not looking at it right or wrong. I said, I'm glad. Why? Because you've had some thoughts and I'm your teacher. Do you really want this? Because I'll give it to you. See, we think only what people perceive as an angel. Oh, I'm coming here. No, an angel would have to be tolerating of people's bullshit. Well, my son just got into a car accident. I said, did you know that he was driving fast prior to all that? Well, yeah. Why didn't you do anything about it? What do you mean? Didn't you at least talk to him about some of the consequences if you think there's consequences? Yeah, but I wanted my son to be a Formula One driver. Oh, okay. And don't you think that there's going to be some bumps along the way? What do you mean? A lot of people that try to become Formula One drivers, their kids never live past the age of 20. We only see the few. See, as I said, if we worked as a collective, which we've never have, if we have, we would see how nature works. What do you mean? Well, we would see that for every 400 trees that grows, there has to be 100 trees that probably die. But most people are so caught up in their own world, they would want the fountain of youth. But yet, would we want to give that ability to also to a guy like Hitler, Mussolini, and all that? Only if we don't understand what was their reasoning for why they were born the way they are. We have this distinct classification that we reinforce, like women in, like, say, Muslim countries. The women reinforce wearing a mask. Now, they can make it stories, all the gods used to come down here and impregnate us and all that. I said, but isn't that where alchemy first came to be? What do you mean? Well, if there were demigods and your offsprings had the abilities that other humans didn't have, then why is that a bad thing? Well, because men couldn't control it. The lesser, I can't say the lesser species, the one that have forgotten their own abilities. Now, this is not me to bash on men and women, because really, put us all in one pot, we're all the same. When it comes to, we all have our strong points and our weak points.
Wow.
Hey, Joe.
Hey. Hello, friends, enemies, kind mothers. So, wow.
Hi, Susan, just in case you don't have to speak. But yeah, hi, Susan.
Who else is here? Oh, look, Susan.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you.
I had to figure out my audio. For some reason, it wasn't working. So I got it now.
So in a way, what would you characterize? How would you characterize the person that asked the question or questioned on that? How has technology helped us, really? Yes. So.
What tech, John, I came in a little bit late.
And then he left.
Well, that's his choice.
I guess because he couldn't. I don't know. He couldn't get. He couldn't understand Dominic, because Dominic was trying to introduce good and evil, spiritual and material, and that to him is whacked out. So he left.
Maybe
well,
something like that.
His initial question, he never allowed a discussion on the topic, because as soon as I said a word, he immediately jumped on that particular word and jumped to that. And then I tried to say, hold on, let me finish what I'm saying. But he couldn't allow that dialogue. He came in seemingly with an agenda.
Maybe you're probably right. So you're probably right, Don. But since you brought up Jaro, sorry, Don, about the technology part, was that the initial question? How has technology affected us, or?
The
Yeah.
question was, how is technology good for us? And, in what ways is
Oh,
it?
because Don made the assumption that technology has been good for us, but I guess he was gonna add something to that. But then he jumped on, how is technology good for us, or I guess trying to prove a point that it hasn't been good for us, I guess.
So can I share something, Jaro?
Yeah.
Can I use the word compared to what? Because I value the concept. I'm going to put my 2 cents right now. We are in technology first and foremost.
Mm.
Our vessel is by far more superior than the positive, negative of a car and the different things like with the phone and all that stuff. The only difference is we've never worked. I'll give you an example, and I've shared with you, Jaro. When you read a book, you're just one operator reading a book, but there's thousands of people that produce that book. Same with the plane. There's thousands of people that put a lot of input into that technology opposed to the 1 or 2 operators. So in our bodies, we forget that our bodies aren't ours only, because then we would have to question who's running it when I'm asleep and when I'm awake, who's running the body. We've never worked together. So the technology that we have that's been given to us, and we'll say computers and all that kind of stuff, we could just look back when we were younger, and most of us are at a certain age where we had a calculator introduced. Did it make us better with numbers or lesser with our technology that we're born with? Same with the concept of when we're born. Were we born to read or write? No. So that was a lesser technology given to us. And what it does to the brain when you read a book left and right and vice versa in different hemisphere, it makes it weaker. Doesn't make it stronger. So the technology that's been introduced, if it is what they're saying it is, like AI and all that kind of stuff, without emotions, because most people aren't developed emotionally. That's why we have war still. We're not going to understand it. Majority of people, we're just not going to understand that technology. Like we can Google something with Siri, and that information, most of us wouldn't be able to have 3 or 4 different thoughts at a time, and it can actually pound it out like there's no tomorrow. So again, you could take many sides of that. You could say it's positive or negative, but just to be the observer, you have to include the technology that's looking at it. Now, can it obtain immortality, live longer than us? Yes, trees do that. Well, not most trees, but quite a few trees. Sequoia trees can live quite a few generations. But then we have to look at other technology. Who gave us the technology of building highways, bridges? That's all technology. But when you narrow it down to one technology, well, then we're not comparing it to nothing. It'd be like comparing the calculator to nothing. Like I tell my buddies all the time, I said, we have a device called a phone. How many strings would you have to have around your neck? So you can have a flashlight on it, a calculator on it. You can have a day planner on it. What the phone does is what money does. It gives you convenience and comforts at the expense of becoming more lazier. Because most of us, maybe you ladies might understand it, so maybe even you, Jaro, where does the moon and sun have to be to plant seeds? You don't learn that stuff in university, because university just teaches how to pump up more doctors and lawyers. And what does that tell you? It tells you that we don't know how to take care of ourselves, and it doesn't know how to handle our own affairs. So has university helped us or declined us? Because there's a big difference between schooling and education, and university does not teach education. Some people might find out while they're in school that they bring out some of their gifts. And who's giving us all this technology? There's the question. It's not Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not that smart. Same with Bill Gates. They're the CEOs of their corporations. They might be smart in some areas, but there's no way you're going to anybody can tell me, oh, yeah, no, Dominic, Elon. No, that's us watching movies thinking that the hero's always going to be the good guy. But meanwhile, don't heroes go throughout major cities and destroy the cities? Aren't they helping the economy? Sorry, guys, I made fun of that, but that's how my mind kind of ticks when I look at stuff like that. But anyway, I went on. What do you ladies and Jarl think about, I guess, the question?
Yes, I'm thinking that technology is what is technology? It it uh, it deals with tools. So even a a bird or an animal that when it grabs a tool, that is using a technology, but of the lowest kind compared to what we've set up. Because it today's or human technology involves a lot of coordination, a lot of the society has to be set up for it. So there's a lot going on that yeah, it leaves the individual kind of helpless. The individual can only contribute to keeping it going. In order to use it, they have to kind of accept it, like agree. Like when you install a software on your computer, you have to uh, select I agree to the contract before you can even install the program.
I think, Jarl, at that point, I think where you're going towards is how to use the technology, because the bird itself is actually technology. See, when
itself?
What's the second, Jarl?
What did you say? The what itself is technology?
The bird itself is technology. You're talking from you. Yes, the bird itself is technology. You're talking about when you're working with a program, you're the programmer, but you're not seeing the fact that you're the technology using the technology. With even the board itself has technology. The way the boards are laid out, like cities are laid out, there's certain energy with it. So unless you ignore the fact or unaware, ignore and unaware is very similar energy. If you're unaware of the fact that you are technology using technology, and then you realize, then we use words like personas, all my personas. I'm a male, I'm a female, I'm a father. These are all programs that we reinforce with ourselves. And when somebody says, yeah, but that's what I am, I said, you're reinforcing it. You're not willing to have discernment. You're not willing to say just long enough to say, am I really the program? And then you can start asking all kinds of questions within oneself, and then you can listen. This is why they have concept of prayer, inquire, peace, silence, meditation, listen. Most people, they're trying to get away that chatter. Something inside say, listen, Dominic, whoever, you don't need to eat that food. What do you mean? That food's not designed for you. Doesn't matter if it's the posh thing to do. We all have it because we have many receivers in our bodies, intuition, insights, information, all that's within ourselves. But we've forgotten because we're too busy looking outside, and even people don't become aware of that. When have you ever been outside of the vessel? Just because I look across the room, I'm never there. When I'm in my car, I'm still inside of this, whatever I think I am or I'm not. That's a game that I have to, or an inquiry that I can do with myself. But how would I explain that to somebody else unless they've done that themselves? And then we have this moment. Oh yeah, Dominic, I've done that journey too. Really? Did you have my journey? Well, no. So then we're just giving words to each other. But I deviated again because even the language we use is alchemy. That's technology. And there's not a human being on this planet that I'm aware of, and I'm making way too much of a generalization statement there. Actually, that's probably more of a blanket statement, but I'm still generalizing. Could we find that person that said, Dami, I'm the one that invented the language? How would I understand him or her?
Wow.
These are inquiries that we all have, Jaro, but we just don't, a lot of people don't do that. Go ahead.
And I'm thinking, how did we get here? Like how there's a lot involved in getting the world to accept all these technologies. Like there's a lot of coordination between governments, corporations, like there's a lot of even competing corporations. They have to abide by certain rules, certain standards to
Mhm.
like if they're gonna jump into a certain area of technology, they have to follow the rules of that technology
Mhm.
and things like that. And
You're
it's
leaning out, Jarrell.
incredible.
You're leaning towards now the word. I don't like when these people mix it together. The word conspiracy. People are conspiring together, but they're not theorizing. They're not even worrying about facts. They're actually agenda prone. So what these groups do, and there's a lot of groups out there. Some people just might know some of them. They might call them the Rosicrucians, the Masons, Skull and Bones, and all that. Those are groups. Most of those people are on very lower planes. You know, guys like the Gates or the Elon Musk families, they're in groups too, but they're lower. They're the ones that the foot soldiers. Governments are foot soldiers. You know, there's big corporations, and behind big corporations are still old monarchies, families. You know, the Dow Jones is a small stock market compared to these other ones. It's like when people try to work to be one of the Fortune 500, there's people that actually own the Fortune 500. But most people aren't going to grasp that because they can't bend over the fact that they're not even aware what did they do in one lifespan. That takes a lot of effort on people. Some people could say, I'm going to escape. I'm going to become a farmer, or I'm going to be a Buddhist or whatever. That's escapism. Why? Because we've never worked collectively as a species. I would be all for it, and this is my view, that we all get into a major war. At least we can get that out of the way. So then when we reincarnate, if people value that kind of stuff, or rebirth, or the next generation comes around, say, okay, we've at least done that. What do we learn from that? Because this trickle down effect of having this technology is this only serves the few. My issue's never been the few, whether it's the few people that are trying to help society, let alone destroy society. It's the masses that choose to say, well, Dominic, I don't agree. I said, don't agree with what? Did you create the boat? No. Did you create all the stuff that we used? No. So then those are our privileges, or, you know, we don't have rights in those areas. Those are privileges. The only right that we have, if there's such thing as right, is the vessel that you've been put in. By the way, Jarrell, if you want to talk about where'd you come from, well, the first start would be from a womb. And even that, I'm always speculating, were we technically in the womb? If we're talking about spirit, consciousness, whatever words you want to use. But because we've been programmed to think there has to be an answer.
That's good.
What do you think, Susan?
It's a lot to think about. I mean, it is amazing. Yeah, I hadn't thought of all those.
Like what I've read or been taught, like that this internet thing started off with the Defense Department and try to use the telephone lines to communicate with each other, so that if in a war some of the lines get knocked out, there would still be, because everyone's connected, the there would still be some communication to get through. So if they try to get everything connected, like say different nodes in the government could still be connected, even if they knock down the infrastructure, that they would still they try to put some intelligence into where, sort of like imagine the different cities to be nodes. So if you want to get from one city to the other, and but the lines, some lines got knocked out, it would still find its way to the other city that you were planning on connecting to by kind of jumping around. Kind, I guess that's the idea of the network. Kind of like your brain. If some neurons got destroyed, that you would still, their brain would still kind of figure out a way to get to the other side of the brain by jumping around, because everything's kind of sort of touching each other. Sort of like that game where you play telephone, and you start a story, and then you teach it to the next person in line. But in this case, it's not just a line, but it's like a spider web, or everything's so connected that if you teach it, you'd have to kind of broadcast it to everyone. So everyone, maybe that would make sure that the message got through if everyone got it at the same time. Anyway, yeah, they came up with the idea of the internet kind of as a defense measure, so that if some phone lines got knocked out in a war, it would still get through. And then they kind of gave it to the public, and it was kind of free. But then people, I guess the corporation saw, hey, there's money to be made in here, or something like that. I don't know. It got very big.
The term I use, Jaro, when technology comes to be, unless they can put a coin operated on it, then it comes to the masses. So Tesla just tapped into on the ideal where tribal people, some of them were gifted that some of the children, when they did a certain elusives, they could actually communicate through the bird. So we really have not been told how clouds and the moon and the sun work. I'll give you an example. Most of us go to school to learn so many symbols, alphabets, or numbers, and we only learn maybe thousands of words. So then how do we know the millions of words we do have? It kind of goes to the metaphor that they use with the monkey cracking the coconut. It's usually, if it's an alpha monkey and in another part of the world, another alpha monkey picks up in consciousness. We really don't know what the clouds do or don't do, let alone the air. Same with women. When women are usually in a presence for long periods of time with an alpha female, their cycle will unite. This is kind of how the moon works. When you see bodies of waters disappearing and coming back. So the military, the only reason why certain people within the military, usually, scientists or whatever, are given that information is because they can monitor it. But most of that technology, like right now, I'm an electrician by trade, where we've gone to wireless device. I'm surprised our species hasn't gone wireless, or at least presented to the masses electricity that's gone wireless. Because most of us have been conditioned to think, what about the fridge and stove? I said, those are old technology. They've already shown that certain people with the ability, you can use ice, let alone heat, to cook an egg. It's just at different points of where that liquid's at. So we've been told technology, but this technology even today that we're using is outdated technology. But it's given to what they call us citizens, peasants. So now people like Gates, Donald Trump and all that, are they in the known? Probably not. Because whatever you don't know, you're not going to be prosecuted for it. And if you do, you're still not going to know what it is. Like, how does a plane really work? Next time you're ever at an airport, look at an airplane and see how long it takes them to fuel an airplane. The way they say it's being fueled, you would need 18-wheelers every day lined up, bringing it in there. That's not exactly. They just use the fuel jet actually to ignite the wings. I mean, the motors. There's a different technology going on there. Tesla just shared it openly. This is the problem is he shared it. The reason why he said it was free, but guys like Tesla have to work for these big industries because they have all the laboratories. So he can't own the properties.
What do you mean by guys like Tesla? You mean Elon Musk?
No. Elon Musk is nothing compared to Tesla.
Oh, Tesla, the inventor?
Yes. Well, the one that discovered certain things. We discover
okay.
things, Jaro. It doesn't mean we invent it. Because if that was the case, then we could take every scientist that says, Dominic, I understand all the elements. I said, so if you went onto a stranded island, could you make steel? There's a whole body of people that have to work together, and then it evolves. A car just didn't show up. Maybe from one generation, they can say, okay, the Big Bang, a car showed up. But there's been so many parts that have come to be. And then we put it together. Some people channel that information. That's why in the old days, scientists, even today, they used to do elusive drugs, and then they would wake up the next day saying, oh, I know how to piece things together. We don't really know how the universe really works. And I'm guessing when I say that, by the way, guys. But I do have an observation ability, and I'm looking up like, okay, so two objects in the sky. How would the theory of gravity work on those two objects? Well, Dominic, that would imply you think that's material.
Oh, a theme that Dominic, or Good and Evil, likes to remind us is that the technology of reading dumbs us down, because speaking like person to person, well, one of them could be a teacher and the other one could be a student assigned the role. That kind of one-to-one natural body language communication is far superior to the student writing it down and then turning it into a book, and then new students having to learn it. Like, say, if we were Jesus's students, then we would have gotten a lot more than what we have now in the New Testament. It's all not quite what Jesus wanted us to know.
Gerald.
So what I'm trying to say is that each technology that comes about, it has its conveniences, but it dumbs us down further and further to the point that we're useless. Like if we remove all our technologies, we would die in a day or so.
The ideal of,
we're so dumb.
Okay. The ideal of oral speech over written speech, both of them are after thoughts. Most people never get to that point where you're in thoughts, let alone before thoughts. So you're using the word, and I've used it too before. When you're reading it uses less engagements. The way I can describe it is, you look at your cell phone. The cell phone has many receivers in it. It can pick up text messages, phone messages. It can send pictures. Those are all different receivers. We don't see the energy in between from a satellite or from some sort of base to the phone itself. The body has many receivers in it. Women are childbearing, so they have many of them near their gut area. Insight comes from one part of their part. Then you have the sole of your feet. When a person sits in front of somebody else and hears over and over oral, it's like a mantra. You're engaging more of your receivers. When you're sitting down and reading a book, most people aren't engaged or using their imagination or their insights while they're reading the book, because your one sense is your eyes are overlooking at it. And then if you understand hemispheres, your left and right hemisphere, this is where we get the concept of king and queen. The heart is the gesture. When your kingdom is not aligned, let's say the king and the queen are having a dispute, doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong, privately, your heart will say you're both acting like idiots, because your kingdom cannot be aligned and everybody else within the kingdom works correctly or functionally if you're too busy caught up in your own, my way is better than your ways. But we've divided by saying one's left, one's more creative and one's more analytical, which there's some validity to it, but they're still all contained within one. Now, I'm talking about the brain. I'm not talking about the mind. The mind is something totally different than the brain. One receives the other. But unfortunately, for most people, when they read a book, they might be using their imagination, which is a good idea, because that's how a lot of things come to be. The only thing is, most people just don't derive it towards some financial reward, which are numbers, or some sort of other symbol, which I got an A or B in school. That's a program. And I know a lot of people will turn around and say, but I need those things. I said, if you really understood your needs opposed to your wants, which are your lacks, you would have been a farmer or a hunter. But most of us want to be entertained. That's why people get paid a lot of money to play sports, do operas and all that kind of stuff. How does that help humanity in a crisis of needs? It doesn't, unless you just want to be entertained before you die from frostbite. This is me talking as a hypocrite, because I enjoy my entertainment too. This goes back to
Yeah.
people want to pedestal people and say, oh, Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha, whatever.
Oh, stop.
How would we know to follow them or her? Could even throw Joan of Arc. How would we be able to follow them if we're not aware of our own comforts?
Have you seen any of those TV shows that entertain, that deal with surviving, like in difficult wilderness? Like they drop two different people that sort of gonna compete, and they get to choose what tools they're gonna use, and they're supposed to go from one point A to point B through a forest or through a desert or something. And they're survivor experts, and they're being video recorded while what they're doing, but they're not supposed to be given help. And it's pretty entertaining to see how innovative they have to become to survive. And some after several days, one of them drops out or something like that.
They're not have one that's really sincere and really serious, where you drop off two single mothers into a major city and follow them to see how they have to survive and maneuver. They would make those two guys. They would make those two guys out in the wilderness say, "Listen, your life is easy. Why? Because at least you're with nature. When you're with human beings and seeing how people can be very indifferent, that I find that very tedious. When I enjoy when people get mad or happy.
Make a good program.
No, it would be
surviving.
It would be a wide
urban setting.
But you missed the part about being a single mother, Jaro.
And yeah, that would be good, and entertaining and educational.
Yeah, but most people for their defense mechanism would go towards entertainment, because most people, sadly as we all are, we lean more towards about being indifference. When people say the word, I don't care, I said, no, I pick up the energy, your indifference. Because if you genuinely did care, the person that's mugging, he's caring. What do you mean? He cares for himself. At least he's revealing himself. The woman over there that turns around and says, I'm trying to help my mother or whatever the best I can. She's actually showing she's caring. Most people are indifference. Most people are narcissists, psychopath, and sociopath. But the majority of the people are the kind of people, what kind of people are they that are around them? And they're too busy bitching and complaining. Not to say that it's right for a person to be a psychopath or a narcissist. A person that goes to the gym to make their body look beautiful are partly narcissism. The guy that actually only cares about the end goal or whatever, works 30 years for a job that he hates, is that a psychopath or a sociopath? It doesn't really matter at that point. They're just not developed emotionally. But that's most of us. It's just most people just don't openly talk about it. They're too busy thinking, well, I got to make sure you lie to somebody else? They never live within your senses, so who are you lying to? A good example, but once again, it's kind of like years ago, my wife's daughter was scared of watching a scary movie, and I told Megan, I said, why don't we ask the cameraman? She started to laugh because she got a visual. Can't be scared when you're not going to be bitten by a shark if you can't hear the music in the background. That's entertainment. Now, when you're in a real life situation, you hope you're intuitively, or you're asking for some sort of assistance from some sort of entity that's been with you the whole time. I tell this to people to a regular basis. If you're seriously the teacher, who taught you how to breathe? Most people can't answer the question if they're honest with themselves. Oh, it's just a given. Really? So your parents didn't teach you how to breathe. They could never teach you how to breathe. That's something else that's going on. We're living within a program that doesn't need us here or not. It's like when people talk about the world's going to be destroyed. No. The human beings might destroy themselves, but the world is beautiful with or without us.
That makes a good topic. Entertainment. What kind of entertainments do we binge on?
For me, Hallmark movies.
What?
For me, it's a walk.
Do you like Hallmark movies, Don?
Yes, I do.
Interesting.
Well, I have a very cankerous view sometimes as humanity, but every so often that or singing or breakdancing or dancing in general, because I realize for all the things that I perceive as humanity still in difference or in strife, there's a lot of beautiful things that we do. And a Hallmark movie just shows you those picturesque moment of romantic. I know it's all set up and all that, but it makes me cry. So,
Wow.
Well, I was going to say that experience here on this planet, there's so many different beliefs, and everyone wants you to become a disciple of their belief system. And they want you to jump on board and follow them, and this is why you need to do it, this is for the betterment.
Mhm.
And you know, no one can say, how do they know? How do they know? Well, because I saw that somebody said this before, and this is what this meant, and they, you know, information from someone else that they interpreted their way. But how do you know that your way is the right and only way when there are so many different ways?
Mhm.
I believe all
Mm.
ways are correct because they all lead to the one thing, but they go
Mm.
through different avenues, and there's different pitfalls and different difficulties to deal with. But no matter which way, path a person chooses, we are here to live.
Mhm.
We are here to live
Mm.
and
Do-
experience.
I've always
And
said, Don, sorry, Don, I was going to say the number one dogma, and I apologize, is not all religion, state, and biology. It's number one dogma, not religion. Number one dogma is commerce. So once you follow all the different ways that they're trying to lead to you, hey, so you're a priest, why are you doing it? No, self-explanatory. Look at the lifestyle that you have. How did you get that lifestyle? I don't care if it's digital money or money in general. It's commerce. You know, people might be hard on each other, say, well, Dom, I don't like to consume. I'm not one of those consumers. I say, what type of consuming are we talking about? What do you mean? Do you eat? Well, yeah, you're a consumer. See, those program has not changed. It was already implanted in us. We're like machines. We eat, and then we have to go to the bathroom. You know, you fast long enough, you'd realize, geez, I don't even have body odor anymore. You know, but to get over that ideal of thinking, well, but I do need to eat. Whoever told me that? I've even tried to experiment. I've done it 3 times. I've done it kind of miserably, thinking I want to see whether or not I can go 3 days without drinking water. Come the 3rd day, my body needs to drink water. It wasn't the first time. Now, some people say, I've gone 4 or 5 days. Okay. But everybody's different in certain areas. I can't run like some of the great runners of Jamaica, but I can run still. So it gives me an opportunity to be humble and then appreciate their crafts, not because I understand them. So this on a little bit when you're talking about somebody always trying to promote their way, you just follow the trail. What do you get from being a state senator for democracy or Republican? Oh, financial gains. What do you get as a dictator? It's the same ideal. You know what I mean? It's like when people used to say women are, I'll use this as an example because guys I hang around sometimes, they can be quite entertaining. Well, women are gold diggers. I said, okay, so let me understand this, guys. Are they trying to do certain things with balls to get the gold digger? Well, yeah. Isn't that what a basketball player is doing? Isn't that what a football player is doing? Aren't they all being gold diggers in that particular case? You know, but what happens is most people entertain ideals when they bring in their likes and they leave at the door their dislikes, or vice versa. Philosophizing or understanding science, you either have to bring them both in the same room or you leave them both at the door. That's why
Thank
children
you.
go ahead, Charlie.
Thank you,
Sorry, Dom.
Don. Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, Don, for you said that there's so many different I don't know, religions or belief systems that and it's like a market of belief systems that certain people are trying to get others to believe in, to subscribe to. So and I thought about what if I or you were thrown into a jailhouse and you have to defend, you have only yourself, and what kind of not just belief systems but values would you keep with you, try to keep with you to survive. Like at to what point would you choose survival over principle or over or a value like say I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to cheat. Or maybe you're in a situation like if you're in the jailhouse that you have to do things that you thought you wouldn't do, but you had to do it to survive.
At that point, most people that are, oh, go ahead on.
I was going to say, I know without a doubt that I have preset boundaries within me, and my awareness of them, as I become more aware of them, very strong. I know that I'm not going to be forced to do something against my will. I'm not going to do it. I've been in these situations before, and I believed that I was forced to choose something against my will. But in reality, the threat of the alternative made me believe that I had no choice. But now I know I'll die. I will die because I do not believe you have to live.
Mhm.
The strong belief that's, oh, you have to live, and whatever you do, live, don't die. I don't believe in it anymore. I don't have a fear of death the way I used to. And I believe that I'm individual and I get to make my own choice. And my choice is, this is it. And if you're going to kill me, you're going to kill me. That's it.
In that case, Dawn, and this is how we reveal ourselves. Have you ever experienced death? And some people have, but some people might call
Not
it.
that I can recall.
Okay. Some people might say the ideal of, I saw the light. I said, well, have you ever seen thoughts before? Well, no. I said, how would you know they're not the same? So when a person's are honest with themselves, the self, the ego, the program, that's all that is. If you've never experienced death, then can you say, I no longer fear it? See, unaware fear is the same ideal. I've never experienced death, so I can't fear it. What I can fear is suffering of some sort, giving up my comforts or pain. And that's where most people lean towards. Jaro, you gave an example where if you were in jail, we have different ways our mind works. We have the reptilian mind, the animal mind, and then the being part. Most people that go to jail, more times than not, are already using the reptilian mind, fight or flight. Most people would say, my choices are, if I'm in a war crisis situation, I'll flee. But if you're in jail, you don't have that option. Something else kicks in after.
Or if you're in prison, in a prison camp.
Yeah, same ideal.
Then if you decide, I want to survive so that when I get out, I can be with my family again or something like that. Well, then maybe you might be faced in a situation where you have to decide whether you want to survive. You have to put up with something against your values or something like that.
Once again, Jaro, once a person starts saying words such as survive, you're already encouraging fight or flight. That's the reptilian brain. If you ever look at all the reptiles in the world, that's how they live. Most people, they don't realize this. When you eat animals, you're only confirming it. You ever see a calf being taken away from a cow, you'll see feelings, meaning you'll hear it. Animals, that's what we are. That's why we have feelings. And then there's the other part of us, the being part. Where does technology come from? See, most people are caught up in their feelings, which is fine, but most of them aren't developed. That's the problem. So when you don't have a developed feelings, you're acting like an animal. The only difference is animals don't have the capability to create a whole bunch of stuff that eventually could be very destructive. They're not, the animal species communicate with humans and say, we have an issue. What do you mean? Forget about your different color of your skins and your genders. You've been fucking us over for a long time. Now, and I say this kind of with my imagination, maybe they'll say, we'll give you a pass. How so? Well, how about we do this? We can't ask you to go around, for forgiveness when your action quite clearly showed you were doing it, whether naively or aware. How about you start eating your own kind for a while? Then we'll call it even. That won't happen, Jaro. So back to your equation, because I've deviated, was when a person's put in a situation, regardless if they've lived that way or more times than not, a lot of people that are criminal-wise already live in that way. They'll have a moment, a couple of moments, oh, I'm living in comfort, this and that. But more times than not, they're in fight or flight.
Oh.
Survival mode. That's probably the better word. You're in survival mode. You know what I mean? I gotta stab somebody discreetly or non-discreetly to keep my job. You know, and
welcome, Mike Sorn. That's Mikey to you and me. Wow. Let's see.
And Jaro, you can use that same example economically too. When people get in a situation where they're economically in, well, most people are already indebted now anyway, but let's say the few people that aren't in debt. So.
Oh, we have some video. Oh, okay. Let's see. And then, oh, that brings me to the idea. I was watching on Hulu a documentary about, I forgot the title, but it had to do with Harvey Weinstein, the Hollywood mogul. He became very powerful, and he was sexually taking advantage of many of the actresses and getting away with it until finally they got fed up with him. But I was thinking of that these actresses, they get in a situation where they're trying to survive in Hollywood that is very competitive, and so if they want to make it, they have zero power, and this guy Harvey Weinstein has incredible power, and so that person, so that Harvey Weinstein was able to take advantage of them and keep them quiet about it for quite a while until finally it came out. But it was hard for the women who had to keep quiet about it, because they were I guess they were in survival mode for their career. They wanted to make it in Hollywood, and they, in order to make it, I guess they got brainwashed into assuming that to make it they had to submit to whatever sexual activity Harvey Weinstein would put on them.
Sure. Well, the power that Weinstein, he didn't have power, he had connections. And another person that was actually bigger than him is Hugh Hefner. Because people think for some reason, because Hugh Hefner had a Playboy bunny, you know how many businesses were done in there? That was just a front. So now what happens is when you're the middleman, the agent, and all of a sudden it's squeezing in all other people. Because remember, a lot of these agendas were planned years ago. So a lot of these people, Bill Gates, the royal families and all that, they would go to one person. He's eventually going to be the person that's going to fall. Whether or not he truly died or not, does it really matter? It's the masses are only concerned about the outcome. They don't care about how the equation came to be. They want to know the result. So in this particular case, Jaro, unless you've lived like a woman, other parts of the world, they bring women over to become nannies. Other part of the world, they bring them over to be luxuries or whatever. Now, they do play a part, but they didn't play a part in their economy being so shitty that now they have to prostitute themselves. Men do the same thing. You just have to talk to athletes, what they have to go through on a regular basis, or scientists that says, I want to try something different, but meanwhile, we're not going to get the funding if we start doing something that helps humanity. Jaro, you're looking at it a very narrow scope because they're feeding you the information with the media, which is fine as long as you have discernment. If you can discern and said, am I not getting the same information that they feed me? Well, yeah. So how does that really help humanity? It helps the ego. That's all it does. Now, not to say that what Weinstein did or didn't do.
Oh.
You know, it's like us. We're talking on a technology that they give us. Now, we can use it to harm each other, or we could use it to communicate with each other, or in a lot of cases, to entertain ourselves.
Mm.
You know? Now, as far as the crisis of a woman, the species of women, the gender, not species, the gender of women, they've always worked. If not, they've always worked way more than us men have. The only thing is they just never got, we'll say, economically or get their due respect. Hopefully they get it privately, because that's where most things should be handled, in a private matter, not a public matter. When people start talking about Black Lives Matter, feminism publicly, you know it's gone array. Why? That should be a private matter. I don't want to know somebody's sexual, let alone, you know, how they're being treated. Because first of all, I find it humorous when people call themselves a shade of their skin that obviously they're not. I'm not white. Last time I remember, by looking at Susan or Dawn, Susan's not white. She might be light skinned, and Susan and Donna in our presence might be dark skinned. But when we say things like we're Black Lives Matter, people that design those terminology are laughing. It's like when people say the word conspiracy and then they use the word theory after it. If I'm going to theorize about the whether or not we live on the moon, I mean, if we live on a globe, in a globe, or on a flat surface, I'm theorizing. I'm not conspiring with anybody. But just because I see two objects in the sky does not necessarily mean that everything here that doesn't show that up there, then it must be either or. That's people that don't know how to have critical thinking. That's what technology, what we call technology, does. It dumbs us down. A simple observation, looking at two objects up in the sky and looking everything here, I don't see anything that's very similar, so I can't give a conclusion. Now, when NASA tells stuff like, oh yeah, well, here's the moon and here's that, those are all art renditions. And if you find out all the astronauts, they're all in high clubs, then you follow the money. They live quite well, especially in America when they spend trillions of dollars on stuff that's not even on the books. And that's not a cheap shot in America. In America, that's just the empire today. That's all that is. The Roman Empire and the British Empire could only have wished they had this kind of technology. Oh, it's easy to manipulate society. Yeah, just feed them stuff. You know, in Rome, they had to have one Colosseum. In America, they have to have thousands of Colosseums.
Oh, we could say that technology ends up helping the few, and but the many, that's us, are kind of, they become part of the technology. They become like the cog in the wheel, or they contribute to it and they can't get out of it.
I'll give you an example of technology that helps the few. Let's say there's a vaccine shot that came out. It can help the few. Some people's immune system are so compromised that they don't build it themselves and their blood types couldn't recuperate themselves. So science could actually do a particular vaccine shot, because most medicine is tested on people that are healthy. That's the funny part. It's not tested on people that aren't healthy. So for some people, it can help. But there's no way in the world, and if people can play this game to whatever they want, that a vaccine is actually going to go across every culture, every blood type, to say that's going to work. No, it doesn't work that way, Jairo. Not every shoe fits everybody, unless you really want some people to go through a lot of pain. So this is where people forget their ignorance is their bliss. Now, I'm not saying there's chemists out there that purposely are doing that, but if they want to keep their jobs and their funding, they might discover things, and now they have a choice. Either you continue playing the game or you speak out and then you get black booked. That's your choice, which they should have known before they even got in that industry. This is why when I tell people, I said, unless you understand viruses, you should have no business taking a vaccine shot unless you understand this is about economics. Why? Because how many people have gone to work with a flu? So does that show that they care about their workmates or they don't care about them? This is why I say most of humanity, if not all of us, in many moments are fucking idiots. And I'm being polite when I say that because I could say a whole bunch of other stuff, but that includes me too.
I'd like to share a powerful summary of technology. No,
Please.
not really of technology, of outer technology versus inner technology. And here it is. We should know that in recent years, our understanding and control of the external world have increased considerably, and as a result, we have witnessed remarkable material progress. But there has not been a corresponding increase in human happiness. There is no less suffering in the world today, and there are no fewer problems. Indeed, it might be said that there are now more problems and greater unhappiness than ever before. This shows that the cause of happiness and the solution to our problems does not lie in knowledge or control of the external world. Happiness and suffering are feelings, parts of the mind. And so their main causes are not to be found outside the mind. If we really want to be truly happy and free from suffering, we must improve our understanding of the mind. So that's the secret technology that we're not learning in school. The how to be happy through the mind, or use our minds to maintain our happiness. That's a inner technology.
Gerald, if I'm going to go with my perception of this, if part of suffering is our comforts, or in this case, our attachments to comfort, and technology that we introduce brings that, do you see how more nooses goes on it? See, for most of us, would most people want to have to think about what 3 trillion minus 400,000 adds up to, or would they just rather punch it in, or at least in this case, even talk to their phone? Siri, can you tell me that answer? Actually, Siri, I don't even want to hear it. Dom, can you speak to the phone? Why? Think about, it brings a lot of advantages, but if you're not sure of yourself, it's like the example I would give, the comforts that we have. My friends will talk about certain things about, certain people are taking things away from the government. I say, okay, let me understand this, guys. You're driving a car that you don't own. And if you do think that you own it, you go to a gas station that you don't own and you buy their gas with somebody else's money that you've earned. You go to a grocery store that you don't own. You take things off the shelf. You complain about doing self-checkout, but you did the same thing with all the foods. And then you pay with money that you don't own, using somebody else's car you don't own. Whose bitch aren't you at that point? Dare not anybody ever get to that point and realize, oh, I've become so dependent. I've become even more dependent than when I was a baby. Our parents have just failed us, and they've been failed themselves, to teach the concept of interdependency. Because I don't know about you guys, nobody here I don't make my clothes. And even if I lived out in the wilderness, when people say, I'm going to live off the grid, I said, okay, so you're going to live without electricity? Because that's all that means. Because if you live off the grid, get rid of that truck, get rid of your solar, get rid of everything else, work with nature, and then learn about how to become interdependent with nature. This is where people have this ideal, delusional as they may be, well, they're taking my rights away. No, they're taking away your privileges. They're not, when they do the real digital currency, and they don't put taxes on there, but they put a credit system with it. They already talked about, they have the technology where you work at a job, Gyro, you work in, say, construction. Your digital system will have an expiry date of 3 months. You got to use it or you don't use it. And if you actually disobey, we'll bring that down to a month. Why? Because we caught you do jaywalking. Now, you might say, well, that might not happen in America. America has many states, and they can do whatever the frig they want. America, that's a country that's, if you factor in pensioners, you're $300 trillion in the hole. 2005, before the big bailout in 2008, America's currency was worth 9 cents to the dollar. the empire has already collapsed. And if you understand that, then you understand why they're already in Russia and China, and they've already built Dubai. Now, if you understood that, then you'll understand the distractions. Now, let's pay a whole bunch of athletes hundreds of millions of dollars that we print, because that's not natural resources. Even gold, when people say gold's gone up, yeah, because you're basing on a currency that's useless. And how many people, I say, listen, hey, Susan, let's go for coffee. You got some gold nuggets, no problem. Bring a torch. Why? Because we got to melt it down to give it to Starbucks. What value would gold be at that point, unless you're just going to use it for conduit? You know, some of the Egyptians even understood that. So now back to technology. We're not going to understand technology that we'll say men create if we don't understand the technology that's already been given to us, the trees, the waters. And what do we do with the trees? Maybe not individually, but as collectively and indirectly, can't even say collectively, indirectly, we abuse it. We're like parents that have latchkey kids. We ignore them. We think that we're doing them a favor by sending them to some schooling system that's not going to teach them fuck all, unless to become better workers. So now you'll understand technology. And written work was part of technology. If we had what we have today, technology such as podcasts, and we had all this audio stuff, you honestly think the written work would have even existed, Jaro? They would have scrapped that a long time ago, like they did with the CD. But people like to read books because they like to be in their imagination, which is fine. Oh my goodness, this is what they said in the Bible. Were you living in that time? Well, no. Did you know a guy named Jesus? Well, not really. So then how would you know he even existed? And what purpose would it serve? But the teachings, if you want to take it for what it is, then you can have some discernment. Okay, love thy neighbor. Well, I've never been outside of my body, so who am I really supposed to love? Who's the one that's been functioning in your body the whole time? Well, it's me. Well, who's the me? The one that's asleep? People don't have that kind of inquiry, Gyro. So now, knowing that, would they truly have inquiries for technology? No, because this just becomes a fruitless effort on entertain me. Entertain me, Dominic. Tell me what you thought Socrates was. He's dead. Even if he lived, I don't know who he is, but he was a philosopher. Oh, so he had a lot of whys?
Don, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm taking you with me on my road trip.
Where are we going, Don? Where are we going?
Are you driving? Are you driving a gas-powered vehicle?
Yes, I am.
And in a few years, will you be okay in driving an electric vehicle that drives itself so you can watch TV or do something else while you're driving? It will drive. You can tell it, drive me to work, and it'll drive you there.
Yes, if that is where we are in a few years, then that's where we will be.
Will you look forward to that?
You know what? Haven't many of us been looking forward to it since the Jetsons? So we are here. So many of us aren't aware that the technology already exists, but they've rolled out driverless cars a long time ago, and those vehicles make deliveries around the world. So we are there.
Like a vehicle that flies, like a drone or something, or a Jetson kind of vehicle.
I guess it could, I do believe that technology already exists as well. Many of us are not ready for it, so we cannot see it. It's not appearing in our reality for many of us because our minds aren't ready to accept it. But I know that driverless vehicles exist, and that, like I said, they make deliveries, they deliver people. So,
wow.
And then I think you were talking something about airplanes not really operating on jet fuel in the way that they have explained it to us or the way that we understand it. I came across something that led me to understand that as well several years ago. It's we have to come to understand reality in a different way. Whoops, sorry about that.
Oh man, you had an accident.
I saw your shoes. I guess, before Don comes back, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be presented to us, but it won't be for public consumption. Like drones, the bigger ones, it's not for public consumption. It's like when you see like a 747, the consumer gets to use it by being in it, but they don't get to fly it. It's a lot of people that fly those things, and even that, it's been taken away from them too now, where the pilot has to learn a lot of different levels to get there, but now he's the third person in the cockpit. The computer runs it, the people on the ground runs a second, and then he's there for an emergency. So the whole ideal of a self-driving trucks, you're going to have the same concept. The third person will be the driver there just as an emergency. But for more times than not, it's not for public consumption. It's a nice ideal to think, oh yeah, you know something, the publics are going to have self-driven cars. How many people can honestly say that they can have a Tesla and they have a job that says, I don't have the ability to charge it for 12 hours. So it's, once again, there's going to be a classification. You have only rich people driving Rolls Royce and Ferraris. You're only going to have certain people that are going to drive with a kit car, for example. Now, during all of that, the people that run the show, in this case, the middleman, like the Gates Foundation and the Elon Musk families, their families are eugenics. They value the concept of population depopulation or population control. Now, think about it. In our lifetime, women are forced to have birth controls, day after pill and all that stuff. They've already done the population deduction. They even did another strategy where they made a lot of the major cities' houses go really expensive. So people make a choice. I will take my birth control pill. Why? Because I can't afford to keep up with the Jones when it comes to have a house and all my comforts. So I'm not going to have another child. The world should be at 12 billion, guys. We're only at 7. Why? Because most of us don't want to grow our own crops. We don't want to raise our own animals. So this is where people don't understand. You can't blame the Gates Foundation for having all the GMOs.
What about
Yes.
entertaining moving to a third world country for a year or two just to learn how to survive in a place where you do have to do some farming or selling in a market something or learning a trade or handicraft or something.
No, I don't want to shatter your dreams, but the determination of third world countries based on economics, your financial, of your currency and all that, you already are living in a third world country, which is America.
Oh.
You know, countries like Africa and all those places, they have lots of natural resources. Here in Canada, most people might think, oh yeah, but we have all this natural resources. No, the Crown Corporation owns that. Same in America. You're allowed to build on the land, but the land is still ruled by the Crown Corporation. So when next time you look at New York and you see all those high rises, those are people that have allodial titles. They don't have to pay taxes to the Crown Corporation. And in the Crown Corporation, they have lots of family that invest in all that. Like I said, the Dow Jones is a small stock market compared to these other corporations. This is why when people watch Russia fighting Russia fighting Ukrainian, who took over the land when the Tsar's family got removed from power? The Vatican Corporation took it over. So this is where when people have to do your research from within. Now, some people said, Don, but it's not written. I said, no, you're going to be waiting for a long time. Jaro, we don't have owners on this plane. We have rulers. That's why when somebody said they're a landlord, I said, are you a landlord? What do you mean? I said, for you to be a landlord, you have to have a title. Are you a duke or a baron? Well, I don't have those. Well, then you're not a landlord. And you pay taxes, so you're a citizen. You know, to study on things like allodial titles. Allodial titles just mean, and you can do that with a car too, by the way, Jaro. If you got an allodial title, that's why a lot of people come from different countries with the cars. You can't get a parking ticket. You can't get a speeding ticket. You can't get a towing ticket. Because the people that rule the land determines the rules.
What I wonder what Mike is thinking about this. I guess he's in the listening mode. But I'd like to hear something about what Mike is thinking.
Would that be entertainment, Gyro?
Maybe he can.
Okay, I'll answer. It's all of these things are what you see depends on your point of view,
Mm-hmm.
and that came from Plato's cave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
If you think you got problems, what do you? How do you think Bill Gates feels?
Mm-hmm. Valid point, Mike. Point of view, eye of the beholder. That's all you ever have. We are the center of our own universe. It's like the clock. People see all the numbers, but you don't see the point in the middle. That's the part we're at. We're all seeing it from our own points. But I'm not going to deviate from the fact that I do see things outside that I give language to, such as a tree or snow. How it affects me, that's the only person I can talk for. I can't tell somebody else. I might have some signs saying, oh, that person looks like they're freezing out there, but I'm not living through their eyes. That's the whole ideal of the Plato's cave. You're always within yourself. How would you explain it to somebody else? You could try, whether you speak it or you write it down, but we only have our own senses.
it's that time.
Therefore, Plato was free too, just like you and I and Bill Gates.
It's that time to pull out the winning number. No, the wisdom of the day
Quote of the day.
from the wisdom bucket. I shuffle it and I grab one of these notes. Let's see what it says. Let's see. Oh. When we come into contact with the followers of different religions, we should not argue. Instead, we should advise them to follow their own beliefs as sincerely and as truthfully as possible. For if they do so, they will no doubt reap certain benefits. Of this, there is no doubt, or some people doubt that. Even in the immediate future, they will be able to achieve more happiness and more satisfaction. So it's saying that we should cherish each other's belief systems and encourage others to continue their belief systems, especially if they're on their dying bed. We don't want to convert them to our beliefs. No, you're wrong. There's no heaven. There's no hell. Or something like that. Maybe we should.
The thing is, Jaro, unfortunately, for a lot of people, when they're caught up in even states the same idea where will say, I'm a Christian or I'm a Muslim. Okay. There's no teachings in that. Or somebody says, I follow Jesus or Muhammad. I said, again, there's no teachings in that. Which when they start saying things like love thy neighbor, then there can be a discernment in there. There's some teachings in that. This is where when people say to me, well, Dom, I'm a Christian, I said, okay, what is that supposed to mean? I could say I'm a liberal. What does that mean? See, this is where they're judging something based on some word. I don't know who Jesus is, so that's a belief system. So in this particular case, it's same with Buddhism. Buddhism is more about teachings, but those same people that go around talking about Jesus are now the same people saying, oh, the Dalai Lama or the Buddha. I said, what's the teachings? And
so you value the teachings over the teachers.
No, again, Jaro, even if I met them, see, the name Jesus, I'll just use it as an example. That's a belief. Saying that I'm a Christian, that's knowing. But the teachings, this is where you can have wisdom and understanding. Wisdom would be love thy neighbor. Understanding would be I have a tough time doing that with myself. So same with Bodhikita, the Hinduism. Again, that's just a word. What's the teachings? It's like saying, okay, democracy. What's the teachings? Oh, it's 50 plus 1. Oh, so, okay, if you have 200 million people and you make them so discouraged that only 2 people vote, you just got to get them both to vote for me. or 3, get 2 of them and one, that's it. Well, that's democracy. That's not Republican where everybody has to participate. So that means you have to have the right candidate to get everybody or the bunch of candidates. It's the same with communism.
So
Communism. Go ahead.
is it possible to look at a teaching and divorce oneself from the teacher and look at it and analyze it and discern whether that teaching would be good for one to follow? Because if we are caught up with a teacher, then we have to follow the teachings of the teacher. And what if some teachings of that teacher won't work for me? But if you look at all teachings of all teachers and then pick and choose one that work for you, because if actually that could confuse you, because maybe the teachings of a teacher are designed to work together like a system, and then if you go to another teacher to get another set of teachings, then there might be a misunderstanding. The vocabulary might be different, and so it could be confusing to go from teacher to teacher and get different teachers. It's hard to unless you can say that there's only really one teaching. It's just that when it went to different parts of the world, that it picked up different vocabulary, different ways of expressing it. So it looks like there's different teachings. It looks like there's different religions, but really there's only one core religion that will help all humanity. And we have to.
Gerald, that's you talking, and that's
just
fine.
An idea.
It could be, but that's you talking and putting your own spin on it, which is fine. We all do it. Where then you have to question: are you teachable? I'm going to change the word teachings to lesson. Person could say, okay, did Hitler have a lesson? Well, and then they're stuck on the word Hitler. I said, then you're not willing to learn nothing today. What do you mean? Regardless if it's Hitler or not. So once you're willing to be teachable, then you drop off the teacher, let alone its classroom. Unfortunately, that's the program that's running, where you think you go to a classroom and you have a professor in front of you and says, okay, Dominic, I'm going to teach you. I said, no, you're the student and teacher. The rest of us are just going to hear you. Why? Because we've been conditioned to think that we have to be here for the marks. See, now, when you're ready to go inwards, your teacher will show up. And when your teacher's ready and say, well, I don't have that information, I'll bring somebody else to you. So in that particular case, Jairo, you're still, like a lot of people, caught up in the ideal that, but I have to like the teacher. Forget about your likes and dislikes. I don't give a shit if it's fucking Plato or Socrates. They're fucking dead. What was their teachings? And I'm going to take with a grain of salt. Jairo, hear me for a second. I'll take with a grain of salt whether or not somebody else bastardized it. Because go ahead.
And what about when you said Hitler and
what was the lesson? What was the lesson?
And Hitler had his set of belief systems that he put on the German people, and they followed him like he was their guru, you could say. So, but when we say to us, when we say Hitler, we guess no, or say Marx, no. So we kind of get allergic to certain names of teachers, if we could think of them as teachers, or like say Jonestown, that cult leader of Jones, that eventually the people in Jonestown, they drank the Kool-Aid and they all died. But when you you would want to listen to that teacher. But
why not? Jairo, why not? Jairo, why not?
Wait. I'm saying you. I have not finished. You would want to because of the name. So the name causes allergy to the teachings. But if you were presented that person's
You froze, Jaro. You guys still here? Susan, Don, Mike? Hope Jaro comes back. Okay. I guess where I'm going with Jaro, hopefully he'll come back, where the belief system comes because we put too much value on
so the
people's.
teaching,
Oh, go ahead, Jaro.
the
Go ahead, Jaro. You phase out for a second there, Jaro.
oh, what happened?
You froze. Sorry, do you want to repeat yourself, please?
Did we lose anybody?
No.
No, we're still here. Yeah, so what I was trying to say is sometimes the name of a teacher might get in the way of the teaching. So
No,
if we
you get in the way. In that point, Jaro, you get in the way, not
Yeah,
the teacher. Drop it.
Yeah. Okay, you're
Okay,
right.
so okay, no, it's not right. Hold on. I'm not
I
about
mean-
being right. I'm asking you to question yourself. Drop the
Okay.
teacher. Forget about
No,
Jesus, Muhammad, and Socrates.
What
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
trying to say
Mhm.
is that when we look
Who's
at
we? Who's we?
okay,
Jaro, I'm
when
talking to you.
Okay, when
Okay.
I look at a teaching
Mhm.
and I am not told who the teacher is,
You scared?
it might, and I just look at the teaching for what it is, it
Mhm.
might be, it might resonate with me. But if I were given the name and then told to look at the teaching, I would ignore it because I've been conditioned to be allergic to certain teachers or to certain characters or certain personalities or certain historical figures because of their name. Like
Mhm.
say, oh, this is a teaching or a saying of, say, Hitler or Mao Zedong or Lenin. Then I would say, no, I don't want to know anything about him because those persons were evil. So I
Okay,
don't want to
Jaro.
make
Okay,
them my
Jaro.
teacher.
Can I intercede here?
I would not want to consider their teachings at all.
Okay, I've heard
So-
you, Jaro. Jaro, I've heard you, and that's great. Jaro, at this point, you're talking about a belief system. Once you get caught up with your likes and dislikes without questioning it, you're not even close to wisdom. Knowledge is the next step beyond belief system. So let's say a guy named Jesus did or didn't exist. The only way I could do it is believe that the guy named Jesus existed. But let's say I met the guy for the first time. Now I know of him, but I don't know his traits. But then he starts talking and he says, love thy neighbor. Now I can have discernment. I can go inwards and say, okay, he said that word. How am I going to apply that for myself? It shouldn't matter who he is. But for most people, it does. That's why you carry over and you're trying to reinforce the ideal of Stalin. Did you know who he was? No, you heard a story. So take it based on that. Now, a person said, well, he was a bad person. Now you can have discernment. It's okay. Why would you say why do you think he's a bad person? Then you can hear them. That's the concept of respect, considering others. What you're doing is reinforcing the same old story that somebody else fed to you, which we all get, but you should be able to read a book and then have discernment about that book if you want to understand wisdom. This is why they have a picture, more times than not, of a statue of a woman holding a baby. The baby is knowledge and the woman is wisdom, but it's not the woman per se, that's the feminine side. Knowledge is the child. I can know something. I'll give you an example, guys. Jaro's heard this. Oh, Jaro, one day it clicks. The number 9, if you multiply with any other number except for 0, always adds up back to number 9. And you can use reason to understand this because that's the spiritual meeting the material number. That's why the Chinese like the number 8. Most of them don't know why. They like the number 8. That's the material number. They don't like the number 4 because number 4 is the energy for time. So you don't see in the Seeking. Everything I just explained to you is knowing now. You know it, but you might not understand it, let alone have discernment. What can I do with that? But if I just said, numbers, you say, oh yeah, Dominic, I've heard of numbers and I've used it, but that doesn't mean you understand it. You might not know how to apply it to certain things. So this is why the Buddha, when you see the Buddha, kill it. When you speak of the Buddha, kill it, because it brings you no value unless you want to be with a whole bunch of people. Hey, look, I'm a Christian. I'm a liberal. What do you stand for? So once you get that, you read a book. It doesn't matter who wrote the book. That's why people get caught up. Oh, I'm a PhD or whatever. That means a physician. Who cares who wrote the book? It's the information. If all of a sudden there's a bomb and it blows up a whole city, are we going to be worrying about who set the bomb, or would we be spending more time discernment? Who can I
Yes.
save?
There's a story
Mhm.
that
Sure.
relates to that. It goes like this. So this this guy riding on a horse got shot by an arrow, or an arrow struck him down, and he fell down, and his fellow horsemen came to his side and say, oh, it could be a poisonous arrow or whatever. Let me help you take it out. And the guy that got shot said, no, wait, don't take it out until you find out who shot the arrow and figure out what kind of bow was used, and the make and model of the bow and arrow, and things like that. So the person that got shot by the arrow was concerned about things like that. Like, and so what you're saying is, in the same way, is that we're too caught up in knowing who the teachings are from, like who wrote the book.
No,
Like when we
Jaro,
pick up a book,
you've already bastardized that. I'm not saying to put value on who wrote the book.
that's
Take
what
the
I'm
information.
saying. That
No,
no,
that's what
I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm saying that we
some people do.
okay,
Some people do.
not we, then I take too much value in knowing who wrote this book. It's
Mhm.
like when you go to see a movie, I get too caught up in, before going to see the movie, I get caught up in wanting to know who the actors are and who made the movie and who the
Yep.
director was and the producer. I get caught up in all that, and who is the author of the script or the novel that the movie was based on. So I get too caught up in that stuff instead of going and seeing the movie without any preconceived notions. Then
But
I would
Jaro,
enjoy the movie more.
once again,
In
you're
the same way.
okay. But Jaro, you're spinning it again, Jaro, I never once said it was wrong. You making
No,
that assumption.
no,
What I'm saying to
no,
Jaro, please let me share this with you, because I'm trying to assist you to be aware of yourself if you can, because I'm aware of myself and I realize we're very similar in a lot of ways. It just acknowledges that you have a belief. If you were striving, most people aren't striving for wisdom, then you would have
Yes.
discernment. Oh, what plot? What does it do? And all that. And some people do it. Some people don't really have a strength of following other people. That's a belief system. There's nothing wrong with that, let alone there's anything right about it. It's just an awareness. So in this particular case, I'm saying, Jaro, it's okay if you want to be a Christian. It's okay if you want to be a Muslim and all that. I'm just saying, for me, if I was putting my 2 cents in, where's the discernment? This is me just talking out loud. I don't really care what other people do. Why? The reason why I don't, and I say this out of sincerity, is I've never lived in their vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the
Yeah.
only person that should be responsible for themselves is them. But what most people do is they react. So you're doing is you're confirming it. You're reacting. You're thinking you can justify, which is fine. I'm just saying, challenge yourself. I'm not here to challenge you. I might sound like I'm doing that. I'm just being the idiot in this moment.
And did you get what I was saying?
Does it matter?
Oh, okay. So
Sharing out loud, Jaro.
what I was trying to share
Yes.
was that I sometimes get too caught up with in the author of a book, and so I may ignore certain books because that author's too boring. This author is from this. Okay, so I may, or maybe I do that in movies. Oh, I like this actor, so I'll watch this movie because he's in it. Or this act. Oh no, that movie, no, I won't watch because that actor was in another movie and that one was boring, and so I won't watch this one because he's in it also. So I get caught up in preconceived notions about what might be in the movie. So and then maybe trailers might give up too much. Maybe that might discourage me from seeing a good movie.
Gerald, I'll give you an example. Okay, this is one of my observations. This is how you consider a person 1 years ago, you say, Dominic, I love all kinds of music. Oh, okay. So I figured let's engage in a conversation. So do you like Bollywood music? Well, not really. Do you like Hindu music? Well, not really. Do you like different Italian music? Well, not really. I said, okay, so you said a statement that you like all kinds of music. There could be some validity to that. And then I had to narrow it down. I said, do you like rock and roll? Well, not all kinds of rock and roll music. Then eventually I had to nail it down to one gender. I mean, one kind of, not gender, one kind of
genre.
Thank you. Genre. So then they liked a certain
genre. How do you
genre. I think you had it right, genre. Thank you. By the way. Yeah.
Genre.
Yeah. So then at that point, I was able, because I'm trying to hear him. Eventually, I didn't question him by saying you're wrong. I said, no, you said, do you like all kinds of music? I wanted to nail down. I wanted clarity. So when I'm following the conversation, I don't follow a conversation when somebody says, Dominic, I'm a Christian. I said, there's nothing to follow with that. For me, for them, that might bring them value. That's why when you hear a bunch of people, yeah, I vote liberal. Okay, well, what does that mean? What does the person that you vote for stand for? Then people say, well, we don't understand morality. Morality is the nuts and bolts to something. So now if somebody values the concept of saying, I believe in women's equal rights, okay, but what's the nuts and bolts? Why? Because I always treat it like as though there's kids in the room to explain it to them. And I think we're all kids personally. I don't care how old you are. I've heard conversation with older men saying, well, Dom, we were better with money when we were younger. I say, yeah, because you never had debit cards. You never had credit cards. You're talking from a different era that you didn't have all that technology. And last time I remember, you put any kind of technology in any different era, you'll see how quickly people change.
Joel.
Yes.
Anyway. What is that technology that you have behind you?
It's a Vinci board, Hiro.
And is it superior to my phone?
Well, you use it with your phone if you want to. Right now, we're looking for eligible competitors.
Is there an app for that game?
Yes, everybody has an app for the game already. It's built into their area between their ears. It's called a Mind.
Oh.
Everybody comes equipped with one, and the question is, how do we grade them to find out if it's a grade A, AA, AAA, B, C, D, or perhaps it's ungradable?
Oh. And where can I learn more about that?
Well, you have to find a learning partner.
A learning
you need
partner.
Someone who will learn with you, because learning doesn't happen in isolation. You have to interact with your environment or with a study buddy.
Study buddy. Study buddy.
Or if Dominic's cat will play with you. So far, he's the only cat who's been able to play. And I know some people are suspicious. They think it's really Dominic playing and attributing the moves to his cat. But I don't know. Dominic says his cat, who's a descendant of Immanuel Kant's cat, then maybe he can play Philosopher's Tic-Tac-Toe all by himself. It's unprovable.
Where are you located, Joel?
I'm in a suburb of Dallas called Arlington, Texas.
Really? What are you doing there?
I'm trying to get out of the cold weather, but it's freezing. It was freezing. It's warming up now, thankfully. And that's where we are. We thought, simplistically, if we drive south, it'll be warm like in Florida. But Florida is much warmer, I think.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Well, it's all right. It's all an experience. We had We went to Nashville and saw the Grand Ole Opry. It's
Mm.
really amazing. Yeah.
Did you go to Memphis?
No, we drove
Grace?
past Memphis because of the ice storm.
Ah,
As we were approaching Memphis, it was, they had all kinds of weather and travel warnings, so we didn't go.
mm.
And I met people that I've met only on Zoom before last night. One of the people from a Dallas group that I have lunch with sometimes. It's been very interesting. Dawn, where are you? You're in Florida, but I can't remember what part of Florida you're in.
I'm in Citrus County. So it's central Florida. And
Okay.
I am, I believe, just south of the Villages and about an hour north of Tampa.
Okay, just south of the Villages.
Yes.
So how far is just south? Is that like 10 miles, 20 miles?
I can say minutes driving.
Okay.
So it's about 30 minutes driving from where I am right now. I'm in downtown Inverness right now. So it's about 30 minutes from here.
Okay,
Mm.
very good.
Wow, that's a nice area.
Mhm. I wanted to say something.
Oh,
I wanted to say, I've lost a little bit of it. It's been a bit. I was trying to raise my hand. I didn't know if you guys could see me, but I was going to say I wanted to hear what I know that Dom seemed to be getting a little frustrated with what you were saying, Hyro. But I wanted to hear what you were saying. I wanted to let you finish what you were saying. And then I was going to ask if there's a topic that we can all be involved in discussing. I know the two of you are going back and forth, but it'd be nice if we could all contribute to a topic, if that's okay.
yes. Let's contribute to a topic. What's a good topic? Let's see. How about death?
That's too
Death?
cheerful.
Death. Okay. How about birth? Birth. How about birth? Oh, how about like when were we when do we consider that we're a person? I guess that could get political or religious. Like how to determine when we're killing a person, like due to abortion, like how close to conception is it that we are a person? Well, like, is it possible that consciousness jumps into the ovum, the fertilized egg, yeah, at the moment of conception, and so there's someone there at that moment. It's just there's consciousness there, but it's unconscious, and then it starts splitting and dividing and forming a fetus, and it's just creating a network of neurons, and then it's becoming more able to use its senses eventually, and it can feel pain at some point. But because I was thinking about if we want to follow the commandment or the rule of thou shalt not kill, then when is it safe to kill, or is it is it not a line? It's more gradual. Like maybe you can kill, but the karma that you that you acquire from that action is less the younger the fetus is, and maybe the older it is, the more. Just something to think about.
Gerald, when you say about killing, and I know you lean a little bit towards abortions, are we talking about when people are conscious doing it? Because then you would have to throw in military.
Oh, intention.
Yeah, would you
Oh.
would we have to throw in military in that equation?
And then what if you want to freeze a fertilized egg and put it in a for storage, and maybe some of them you have to get rid of, or maybe you've had too many and you just select one of them. So the ones that you get rid of, it could be considered murder of those that were fertilized.
So then, Gerald, then who? I know we're playing in the system, but who determines when it's right or wrong to kill a fetus, let alone somebody that's handicapped? You know, because a lot of eugenics, this is what they lean towards. You know, they don't go around doing the killing. They just condition people to do it. You know, a woman that gets raped, should she have to bring a child into this world through rape? It's not personal with the child, but then again, you could say the same thing to military men. I'm fighting for my country, so is it really personal with somebody else's child? You know, that opens up a lot. I get it. You know, if we isolate it, I know a lot of people use it just for, you know, talking points. You know, it's right or wrong. You know, funny thing is, you get Christians, there's not all of them, but the ones that are very fundamentalist, they'll read the Bible and they'll say, thou shalt not kill. But meanwhile, you'll kill somebody that believes in having an abortion. It's just because most of them can't see through their own hypocrisy. Because it's easy to justify our way of living. It doesn't
And
make it right.
then so if you have to kill
Are you killing?
in order to eat, then okay, so let's say you're going to kill in order to eat, but each being that you kill accrues equal amounts of negative karma, let's say. So then you would say, okay, should I kill 20 shrimp, or should I kill 20 shrimp? Well, actually, nowadays you would just go to the grocery stores and buy the shrimp. Or should I kill a big animal that grazes on the grass, or they feed them corn in a farm, in a big industrial farm, and then it gets cut up and packaged in the grocery. But you could say what you bought in the grocery was a cause of having killed one big cow or bull. So is it better to kill 20 shrimp or a big cow? Because a big cow or bull, it is one life, but 20 shrimps, that's 20 lives. So you've murdered 20 people for the same meal. So it is better to kill one big animal versus a bunch of small animals. If you go by all lives being equal.
Okay, Joy, you're posing all those possibilities, and if you want to allow, I don't mind sharing. I'm pretty sure other people sharing. I'll quickly keep quiet. If you're going to start posing those possibilities, Jarros, if you understand energy, a bull, no, you didn't really use the bull initially. You used a cow. A cow, what you feed from a cow is different energy compared to shrimps. This is why people that eat wild game have different energy than people that eat domestic animals. So now you're playing the game of, without understanding energy, hence karma is energy too, where if I eat less or more, does it become good or bad? Now you're trying to fit a square into a circle and vice versa, where is it right to kill? Depends if it's an honor killing. Like for me, I would give permission to somebody to say, listen, if you really need to eat me, make sure I'm asleep at least. Or put me out. I mean, it's an honorable killing. The reason why is because my spirit might not necessarily agree if you're putting me through pain and the suffering that you'll get from receiving from the blood from my body.
Oh,
So this is where
that's a good
people,
point.
well, they're points. That's all they are. I
I
don't know if
mean-
they're good. I don't know
I
if they're
mean,
good.
the idea that one should kill with causing less suffering. So if we're going to kill a big cow or a big bull, maybe we should put them to sleep first and then chop their head off, because that reduces the suffering that the animal would have.
Again, Jarl, it depends on how you interpret suffering. There's human beings, Jarl, that are suffering in the sense that there's so much pain that they no longer want to be here. That's one way of doing it. Then there's other people, they're suffering. They can't get enough comfort, so they don't want to leave yet. There's animals that are the same way. Some animals really enjoy just being an animal, but then we prematurely kill them because we think about our own selfish needs. That's where the composite of suffering comes in. So now in this particular case, hunters understand this. When you kill an animal, it has to be a clean kill because they understand how the meat works and all that kind of stuff. And then there's other hunters, they understand my horse is suffering too much, so I have to do the humane ways, not the animal way, the humane way. Because if people that are really suffering a lot, they say there's no comfortable way of living. See, you can live longer, it doesn't mean you're living comfortably. There's why a lot of people, they value the concept. Please allow me to go to sleep. This goes to the ideal that when does a person have the right to kill another person? When they give you permission. Now, the only difference is a fetus is not caught up yet in the personas. Now, I value Jaro, we're not in the womb. We jump into the womb. But that's my perception. And I even use the word we, so that's an error on my part. I jumped in the womb. I lean more towards I'm an air being. Now, some people are water beings and they can live within the womb. I can't denounce that, but I'm telling you me. Now, that's why I don't have experience of, well, I remember when I was in the womb. No, I was never in the womb. I chose when I wanted to come in. And I picked parents that were the right parents for me. They weren't going to interfere. They weren't going to force me to go to some university or some college or some church. And if you ever talk to my father, you would see a similar being. I've just chosen to adapt both my dad and my mom. I remember one day.
Is this a interesting topic, or has the topic gelled into something? What do you think, Don? Are we getting warm into something, some kind of good topic?
I feel like it's an interesting topic, and I also believe that there are many different views to have about, if you and it definitely did gel into a different direction, but we can pull it back. The idea that when does life start creates a lot of conflict between us humans. I don't know the correct or right answer necessarily. I have only programs within me at this time. And I have been receiving information, learning, as I go along, absorbing different ideas and beliefs. Hopefully I will be able to discover what is, right. But what I have been experiencing on this planet is that life happens and death happens. And we're not always in control of it. And we don't always understand the reasons why. And so I think I don't want to put myself into a belief system that's going to dictate how I must view things. I just want to experience and then go inside and realize for myself what it means to me.
Mm.
Okay, even not Don, bringing on that life and death. I'm going to use it because women are childbearing, so I have to use this example. A woman that continuously goes out and has sex unprotected and had many abortions. Some people can perceive that as she's being childish, foolish, irresponsible, but yet she could say, I practiced that. And those are some of the results. No different. You can go to a bunch of men that get trained over and over again to actually learn how to shoot another human being in the military. It's the same conversation. One's talking about bringing in life, but I don't want to do it. Another one says, there's life already here. I want to take it out. And along both of them, they can make their justifications or their excuses. This is why when a person talks about abortions, have you experienced an abortion? Well, no. Have you ever experienced somebody else that had an abortion? Yes. Did you ever ask them the many reasons why they continue to have the child or not have it? See, this is where we learn the ideal of consider or respect each other. Hear each other, not with our likes or dislikes, because then you have judgments. So now in this particular case is it right to have an abortion? Is it right for a child, 14 years old, to have a baby? It's a question. Now, the question should be directed towards probably children so they can hear it because they're not in a situation that they're going to have a child. Now, other people could turn around and say, well, Dominic, I had a child. Was it planned? Most people don't have planned childrenhood. But if you're looking at it from economics, then you can understand more about the abortion question that people are feeding the masses. Especially when you talk to eugenics. Yeah, we're all for it. That's the whole ideal of the gay movement. Even when they reverse the chakras on the flag, 2 women cannot have a child. 2 men cannot have a child. A tranny cannot have a child. Now you understand eugenics. Now, somebody will say, but Dominic, but they're gay. I said, that should be a private ordeal. I don't need to know somebody that chooses, they have a preference for their own. That's a public, that shouldn't be a public conversation. No different if Joel says, I like to do certain kinky things with my wife in a parking lot with my car, in her car. That's a private matter. And I'm just joking, by the way, Joel. That could be true, but you never know. But again, that's a private matter. It would make no sense if you're using sense, such as reason, to see Joel and me protesting about how people should do what in the car in a parking lot. So even the conversation of talking about an abortion, unless somebody's here saying, one of the ladies say, I'm thinking of, I found out I'm pregnant, I don't know where I'm going to go. That should still be a private matter with people that they can trust. Shouldn't be leaned on a whole bunch of religious or state people that don't even, if you look at your own people that you admire so much, they're living aimlessly themselves. Again, that's me, Jarl, using discernment. How does that serve me, let alone you, about abortions? When both me and you aren't probably in that situation, unless you're there to learn, just in case down the road, whether one of your loved ones or a total stranger comes to you and says, listen, something told me to come to you. What do you think about, I'm thinking of I'm pregnant. I don't know what direction to go. What do you mean? How to raise the child? Whether to do, have an abortion? What? It'd be no different than an elderly coming to me. Yeah, I'm in mixed emotions. My husband's on life support. I don't want him to die, but I also don't want him to suffer. What would you give to, what response do you think you would give to them? Opposed to passing it back to them. Tell me how you feel about it. Are you prepared to deal with some of the things that you aren't even aware of? It goes back to Dawn saying out loud, and she's allowed to say it out loud, I don't fear death anymore. How can you fear something you've never ever addressed, unless we're fearing the unknown ignorantly? Now, some people can honestly say, I've experienced death because a doctor told you or a surgeon told you that your heart stopped beating for a while. Is that what death is? Because if that's the case, then I do that all the time. What do you mean? I breathe in sometimes, and sometimes I breathe out. Is that life and death?
Or maybe,
Yes.
Or not maybe, but I think, or I suspect
You suspect
that
of it.
when Don was saying that about death, is that in a situation where she had to choose between doing something that that would be against her values versus having to die to keep those values, then she would die. Or maybe that's what I got. Maybe I'm wrong. What
Well,
were you trying to say, Don?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. And it's in my perspective, one doesn't have to experience death in order to say whether they fear it or not. I can sense it within me
Mhm.
that I do not have a fear of whatever it may be. And, you know, that's why I feel comfortable making my decision. I'm even pre-making my decision, knowing that I have no idea what the penalty may be. And also I have no idea what will happen at that time. But within me, there is a strong sense of my being. And as far as when it comes to, you know, death and killing and, you know, someone having an abortion or several abortions, I feel like we humans complicate things that we don't understand, and we make right and make wrong in order to try to discern, but we don't know. And I'm not willing to put myself in any position at this point.
And that's a valid point, Don. There's a lot to be said about the art of war. Sorry, Jaro. The art of war. There's a reason why the strategy is you never corner a person all corners. You put it in the three and you give them the unknown. So because the three knowns, they know the result. The unknown is I'll take my chances for survival. That's why it's a strategy. This is why when most people, they'll go always towards what they know. Now, we can hypothetically think about what we don't know. Now, there could be people out there, Don, you might be an exception to the rule. You could be the unicorn of the humanity race. You could be in millions still, where you probably do know what death is or isn't. But for most people, it's an ideal. But what we can lean towards is what we do know, suffering. I don't want to give up my job. I don't want to actually be under chemo. I don't want my parents to suffer while I'm suffering. Those are the known. All of that's absence of what we think death is or isn't. Now, if we truly did know what death is, then we're talking like the ideal when people say, if in the future, I don't know what the future is. I can base it on some sort of patterns on my past as I'm using the moment to investigate the past. And those pasts are memories. But I still don't know. That's why it's always a possibility in the future. And yes, Don, you said some words there where most people can't have discernment if they don't go to the first step of knowing. But you can have discernment to the best that we're aware of. Not all of us are going to experience in the material, living in different parts of the world. But we're going to experience way more in the unknown, which is thoughts and emotions, than we ever are going to do in the material. Now, that takes a lot of awareness on some, not a lot of awareness, what am I talking? It takes some sort of an awareness to realize every word I give a description is an experience. The material is just a linear experience. But I have to give names to everything. So I call that object a tree. I call that object a body of water, a body of water. I could call that a body of trees. Those are experiences.
So what is it in death that I or some people may be afraid of? Is it the death itself, the moment of death, or is it that the death is the end of life and so there's non-existence? Or is it there's a life after death that could be heaven or hell or some levels in between? What is it that one fears in death? Is it the moment of death or the process of dying? What do you fear in death? Or you don't fear anything in death or in dying?
The darkness, I have a lot of fear in the darkness. It gives me the impression that there's a lot of unfinished business. I didn't address a lot of things. So I've had that experience even when I was a kid. But that's my perception of it. It could be fanciful thinking, whatever. But once again, it's kind of like if somebody told you you came into this realm to do certain things, and these are all the things you didn't do. We can address all the things that you did to distract yourself, but that's not the reason you were here. So
No.
hence karma. This is why even the samurais, they know, let me take my life. We'll play the game, but let me get the final blow. Why? Because I understand karma. And I don't want you to incur more karma on my behalf. But again, the question is more for you, Jaro. You can share, since you share that openly. What do you fear? If there's any fear at all, like I can give examples what I think fear isn't. And one of them is you go into a dark cave, you have this fear of the unknown, but then as you get further into this unknown, now you see these two big eyes. So now you transfer your fears from the unknown to these two big eyes. So you were never fear of the dark. And then you go a little bit closer and those two big eyes are on a big creature. And now you no longer fear the big eyes, but you fear the big creature. And then he starts speaking in a language that you understand. Hey, Dominic Jaro, how you doing? Were you ever fearful? Or were you just transferring an illusion from one to another? Now somebody could turn around and say, Dominic, I really do fear if I was with a whole bunch of people with guns. I'm thinking, are you fearing the unknown still? Why? You don't know what those purpose of those guns. And let's say they do shoot you. Are you worrying that they're not going to do the job completely? It takes a person to be in that zone to realize, what am I really fearing? And I'm talking from a person, I do have lots of my own anxiety economically, worrying about whether or not my car is going to work or not work. But those are kind of aimless things, but they're still part of the human experience. Somebody can talk to me about poverty, but what type of poverty are we talking about? We're talking about people that aren't billionaires, and we're talking about other people that they have lots of money, but they don't have a lick of being able to comprehend things. Yeah, but Dominic, I get all those people to do things for me. I said, you're just understanding how money works, and you can make people move based on they're slaves to the money. They're not a slave to you. Because if they were a slave to you, then you don't give them money. So that means you now have to feed them and shelter them. So you're a bigger slave than they are. That's why slavery never worked. Print a piece of paper, let them go out and work for the same jobs because they won't lift up their hands, give them the money, and then let them come to us to buy their needs. Tell me if that isn't a different form of slavery. And then you put people in the middle, call them masters. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, even that, they're not. They're from families that are well off. Bill Musk comes from a wealthy family. They're not wealthy like the Carnegies or what are they named, the Barron family. They're known as the Rothschilds now, or the DuPont family. And then there's people above them. They don't even play with money. So then most people are ignorant of death as they are ignorant of knowing that there's different rulers on this plane. Now, somebody can say, Dom, you're full of shit. In my world, I already know that. But most people aren't willing to be honest with themselves and say they're full of shit.
Joel, how do you understand death? Or what can you say about death?
Well, in death, you can no longer play Vinci because you can't move the pieces. So I understand death as an inability to interact with worthy opponents and play Vinci. Unless there is some form of existence, either before life, in the womb, or after death, where we could still communicate. But we don't know that in our present existence. All we can say with certainty is in this level of existence, I can utter sounds. I can hear sounds, at least most people can. I can see objects in the physical world, and I can try to use my intention to compete with a worthy opponent. So Don is still looking for a worthy opponent unless you found one, Don. And I may have one for you. He's a retired school principal. He's never played either. So you wouldn't have to handicap each other. Name is Merv. I won't use his last name here because Jairo is broadcasting this and he may not approve. He's quite a pleasant man. And at least from my experience, I've known him for a couple of years online. I've never met him in person, I don't think. Maybe I have once, I'm not sure. So if you're interested, I'll see if he's up for it and you can both learn it together.
Okay. Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's hard to find appropriate competitors or opponents or fellow students. Pyro might be good, and Dominic, if he agrees not to let his cat help him, might be good as well, but
He has an unfair advantage.
he does.
Well,
He would have to handicap you.
The thing is, Joel, I have to reveal something I never, and this might help you promote your game that much more, opposed to having maybe Bono from YouTube promote it for you. Buffy had Socrates' cat's ghost assist her.
Ah,
So the unknown was there the whole time. So as you were saying, once we die, you can't move the boards. My cat was channeling another cat.
so it was like three of you there. No
Well,
wonder,
it was a-
you won so easily.
Cats come in litters, Joel. You just don't realize that. There was a litter playing. I had to sit back here. You know the worst thing about it? After they schooled us, I had to feed them.
Oh my God.
And
How do
yeah.
you feed the ancestor cats?
You got to first look for some antique pictures so they can distract themselves, and then just feed them the same pet value food.
Well, it's interesting because this theme, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Amistad. It's a very, very good movie, excellent movie, and it deals somewhat with the same situation, I guess, and how our ancestors do affect us and affect our decisions in the modern world. I thought it was a beautifully done movie, actually. It was really, really interesting. Anyway.
Can you text that, Joel? Can you put it on chat so I can?
Yeah, it's called, I forget the name of the actor. I'm very bad with the actors' names, but
I will never forget. It's Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
And
yes, yeah.
I can never say his name. Give us free. But he was also in Gladiator. Very good actor.
okay. And then there was who played the John Quincy Adams. He's a famous actor.
Oh yes, I can't remember his name, but everybody in there.
Yeah, they were
good.
really, really good movies, really good actors, and it was a brilliant script. And I'm sure it, to my way of thinking, it must have portrayed the way life was in those days with significant accuracy. Also, it also showed you the finer uses of the law.
And Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Morgan Freeman.
Yes.
He's in every movie.
Yeah, he is.
All-star cast from what I believe. Yeah.
I jokingly get. Go ahead, Joe.
Some weird names like Dijon.
Yes, that's him.
Honso and Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Very popular.
Anna Paquin, I think.
Yes.
Pete Postlewaite. Wow. A bunch of
I would definitely watch that movie. I think it was definitely worth seeing. And I'm not, I spend a lot of time on Zooms, but not as much time in front of the TVs. But I would even give up one of these Zoom meetings, maybe two, Iro, to watch Amistad. And that's no reflection on anybody here because I enjoy all of your company, but that was a good movie.
Maybe I can watch it on Amazon Prime.
And let me tell you, there's not a whole lot of movies that I feel like I want to watch again and again and again, especially when it comes to them being so gut-wrenching, so traumatic. But this was a movie that had the drama, the trauma, but I could watch it again. It was so well done. It told a story. And it was so powerful. Chills, even just thinking about it. So yeah, I agree with Joel.
When I usually watch the credit, I do this joke with me and my wife. I said, let's see who the lighting guy was. Let's see because again, this is the program. We only see the actors, but forget that they're just actors. Who's the script writer? Because that's where it really is. It's a script, right? Like we all are handed scripts and how we were supposed to, somebody else, okay, I want you to be really careful, not to take away from their craft. You know what I mean? Like a lot of good movies, the actors does bring attention to it, but a lot of it has to do with what's the plot. Like, you know, Joe, as you're talking about our ancestors, a lot of native tribes still value the concept that our ancestors are still here through the blood. You
Well,
know?
I always look for the credits for the production accountant. I think
There you go. See? See?
all great films are really the production accountant's work.
Yeah, so we can relate. See, that's why I say, because I'm an electrician, I say it jokingly, right? Or we'll see a whole bunch of scripts. Oh, George was there. Yeah, I know him. I don't know who the guy is. Oh, yeah, I didn't realize he was the one that is actually, he's the third executive producer.
Without the accountant, you wouldn't know if you're making money or losing money. So
There you go. There you go, Don. Exactly. Yeah. We say that jokingly, but you know, that means a lot to a lot of people, right? You know, I remember my buddy one time invited me to be an extra in Toronto. And I was the agitator. I had to go in the pool and move water. That's all I did. But I found the whole thing interesting. You weren't allowed to talk to any of the main actors, which I get because then everybody would be inundated in them. But when you saw that, it was kind of like, it's like when you watch TV and they do a reenacting of something. Oh, this is what the prime minister was doing or the president. Like they really had to rescript that again. It wasn't done live, like in the sense that it was done in the moment. It had to be redone. So, you know, it's not real. They're clips. And that's what movies are. They're clips. And we get caught up in that. And part of the clipping part is the program. It's like I used to say jokingly, what is Cinderella and the prince doing the next day? Is she scrubbing the floor? Is he delivering a baby out of a cow? Because most people wanted to see it ended. Oh, it's great. It's like watching villains and superheroes. It would be nice to see Superman get shot at the very beginning. Be done with it. You know, let the villain be the bad guy and the good guy in a sense that he's going to go through New York and destroy it. So there'll be work for everybody tomorrow. When you think about it, right? When you see Batman and Spider-Man, they're going through Manhattan. Watch what they're leaving behind. They're destroying buildings. And as a steel worker, you'll say, great, I got work tomorrow. You know, that's how we are. We're funny species that way. 9/11 generated a lot of economy for people at other people's expense. GDP is based on also funerals. I say that jokingly, guy, because how am I supposed to take it? Like, oh, Dom, you've offended. No, I'm just telling you part of our existence. You know, when people say, Don, you said it, I'm just going to, you know, joke on a little bit about this, where we say, well, I wouldn't want to die. I say, we take a chance every day, and I'm using this as an example, every time we jump in our car. I don't wish this upon you, but every time we jump in our cars. There's always that moment where some people are fortunate enough when they do pass away. My mom and my brother, they came to visit me before they moved on. Am I supposed to think that's fairy tale? You know, some people do value them. My wife had that conversation with his dad when he passed away. He was on a boat. And okay, what am I supposed to say to you? I don't say the word woo-woo, because if I'm going to say woo-woo, I'm going to say NASA's woo-woo then too. Joel's game is not woo-woo. It's real. And once you start putting numbers like bills behind each of those things, Joel, it'll explode. Or play to the death, Joel. Play Da Vinci to the death. Oh, you're muted, my friend. You're muted, Joel.
I'd rather play Vinci for 10 cents an inning and $1 a game, like penny poker.
Ooh.
So that way it keeps it interesting. People could lose up to $1.90, or they could make up to $1.90 unless you're playing with more than 2 players. And that keeps it interesting. And so you could see who wins the game numerically, who wins the game financially, but everybody who plays wins because they get to interact with another person.
I love it. I love it. So I got laundry money that can come to me in the end. I love it.
Yeah,
candy.
a little bit of fun stuff, because it plays really well via email. Nobody's under any pressure to move. And while I'm on this, Dawn, is it okay if I give your email to Merv? So
Yes,
that,
please.
okay, and I'll ask him too, whether, because they're having a group of teachers that are going to have a might have a Vinci competition for their 50th anniversary. And Merv is organizing that. So I may try to organize a tournament, but he's never played before either. But I'll ask him if he wants to join, or if he's willing to share his email. I don't think he'll have a problem, but I just always ask permission, just like Jairo does. He wouldn't give me your email directly. And I think that was very professional of him. It was very professional.
Excellent.
I put her through the training program.
The one that you flunked, that one?
Yeah. We're just talking about using the coffee machine here. So I failed my class on how to make coffee, but then I taught Anita.
Mm. Mm. Oh. Today I'm going to do yoga
Mm-mm.
in a yoga class. Mm. I better get ready.
Are you teaching the class?
No, I'm going to attend the class.
Ah, is this your first time?
The first time in 3 or 4 years
Oh, wow.
in a
Good
class,
luck.
in a class
luck.
environment.
Well, do you have a desired result of attending?
Mm.
Like, what's your purpose?
To move my body and boldly go where it's never gone before.
Love it.
To know thyself, know thy body self. There's the mind self, and there's the body self, and there's the speech self. There's all kinds of self. There's the gut self that digests food. I have a gut feeling that it's a self.
You're starting to sound like Forrest Gump naming off types of shrimp. A gut self.
Oh man.
Great conversation today. I guess we're nearing the end. Is that what where we're at?
Yes, it could be nearing the end, so that I make it on time. Well, it starts at 11 actually, but I'm slow to get going, and I don't want to be late. Well, it's only about 30 minutes away. But what should I wear? What should I wear? Oh, maybe a shirt.
I think
And
you should wear a pink Lululemon jumper. That way people will know that you're a serious yogist.
Wear
Is
leg
that what a
warmers.
yoga person is called?
I think that's more for fitness, Joe. But I think too. Wear some leg warmers too, maybe.
Pink, get pink, Cairo.
Leotards.
Leotards, that's it.
Oh, the yoga teacher's calling me.
Okay, I'm going to leave you people. Have a great weekend. Don,
Same to you,
I'll
Joe.
write to Merv and see if he's willing to take a chance. Don't beat him too badly, because he's an old guy and he might feel, like he's got cognitive impairment. So try to go easy on him. I'm sure you're not going to have any issue.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Joe.
Bye, everyone.
But I better get ready.
Jaro, you're not coming in clear, buddy. Your headphones. There you
Hello?
go. There you go, Jaro. I can hear you now.
Oh, this one's not working. Oh, that was my yoga teacher. She's saying that you better get here before 11 because at 11 the
That's
door
it.
is closed
There you
so
go.
that people don't disturb as they come in.
Mhm.
So I better get ready for yoga class
Enjoy it.
and put my leotards on if I can find them because it's cold. It's chilly. Thank you, Mike Sorn, for listening to our conversation and realizing that we all have our wonderful points of views, perspectives on things.
Okay, have a wonderful day, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow.
Enjoy
Bye.
yourself, Mike. Enjoy yourself. Ciao,
At
Jaro.
Plato's Cave. Thank you, Mikey. And thank you again, Dominic, for a wonderful